From CBS, the next winner traces the roots of America's epidemic of violence and its consequences through compelling personal stories.
Last September 13th, President Clinton signed the new crime bill into law. 2 months earlier in Washington, a single act of violence cost Donna McDaniels, her husband, Shirley Monroe, her son, and Daphne and Geneva, their father, Earl McDaniels. By all accounts, a good and God-fearing man.
We know that Sister Mike Daniels has been faced with some difficult and some dark moments.
He was a family man. All he wanted to do was take care of his children and me. He loved security work. Couldn't get him out of security. No reason at all.
Earl McDaniels was killed last July, a few hours after starting his midnight shift as a private security guard at this D.C. housing complex. His wife tells us that on his last evening at home, he tucked his youngsters into bed as usual, and that when he left for work, he was carrying what he always carried, his gun and his Bible. But neither could save him from the killers sent by drug dealers at 3 o'clock the next morning. They shot him in the back of the head. A month later, police arrested this suspect, age 19, and another fellow, just 16 years old.
How did you feel when you learned that a couple of teenagers had killed him?
It hurts because how can I tell my kids that another child killed their father? And the first thing Geneva would say, Mommy, Daddy wouldn't bother nobody.
When the doctors at D.C. General turned off his life support system, they asked the family to make a difficult decision.
They asked if we wanted to think about donating some of Earl's organs. I said that I would love for someone to have Earl's heart because he had a good heart. He had laughter. He lived. And that's what I want to see him do now, live.
In somebody else?
In someone else.
That's the work of two of the most gifted people in our business, Paul and Holly Fine. But not even Paul and Holly Fine can overcome inclement weather on the shuttle from Washington to New York, so they're unable to be with us today. Andrew Hayward, the president of CBS News, is here. Andrew, we will pass along that award to you and make sure that you deliver it to them, if that's okay. They are here. They've arrived.
Wow. Thank you so much. I got to say this afternoon I'm very proud to be a part of radio and television after watching all of these wonderful and listening to all these excerpts. We need to thank today Howard Stringer for having this idea and placing us in charge of it, and CBS for, in this day of MTV TV where everything is quick and fast, placing it on for 3 hours one night, for putting their whole broadcast evening devoted to violence in America. We need to thank Linda Mason, who is the vice president in charge, who helped us, gave us guidance and leadership. We need to thank, of course, Ed Bradley, Dan Rather, and Mike Wallace, the pros, who reported this broadcast. Also, there are 3 people here today of the staff: Margaret McAvoy, one of the producers, Miriam Weintraub and Keith Brown, very talented associate producers. And finally, I wanted to read to you a letter that we got, just a short letter that we got after the broadcast. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Fine, congratulations on the killing fields of America. I was personally moved by your show on violence. I heard through a friend that I was not the only one. My friend's teacher told her class the day after the show that she witnessed one of the most impressive spots on television the night before. My friend's teacher also said she was so moved by the show and the people she heard and saw in the show that she was changing the direction of her class and the overall way she teaches. It's that kind of a response that makes us keep wanting to do documentaries. And now, Paul, who shot every frame of this 3 hours, and my husband.
We go out there and we make television, and Some people in our business, I think, they go out with the attitude that we're doing people out there a favor sometimes. Well, this show, every person in this show made a difference that was in this show. They did us the favor. Whether a drug dealer who was shot 13 times or the victim of a drug dealer, they all wanted to help stop and do something about violence. And it's really bad out there. We barely scratched the surface. But there are people out there that are trying to make a difference, little pockets of heroes. We found one in Fort Greene, a mom named Pam Cook, who let her kids go out of the house, but she just happened to be with them every time they did. And they were a little old to have mommy falling behind them and a little embarrassed. But she hasn't stopped yet. And she keeps her eyes on her kids, and she loves her kids. Another hero we met is Mark Rivera, a cop in Hartford, Connecticut, who works with kids in gangs and works with kids to keep them out of gangs. He's devoted his whole life, lost a marriage, and I've watched this man. Who is totally dedicated to helping kids. If we could put the lights on for a minute, it is people like this that matter in our country. Pam Cook and Mark Rivera, if you could stand up, please. Thank you, and is Mike coming up here? No?
I thought he was. No, he dove out.
Mike was behind me, now he's gone. That's okay with me. Thank you.